I really couldn't be more excited about this event, as it's just an amazing opportunity to share all the experience of Alana and Howard's real experiences going through the entire process together with us. And why don't I hand it over to Em to start going from there?
Yeah, my thorough thanks as well for everyone for showing up, for Alana and Howard especially, but all the other attendees as well. I really hope you get something beneficial out of this session. And like Jesse said, we're really encouraging adding questions to the chat, raising your hand, unmuting your mic, and just speaking up, because we really want to gear this. We have our slides, we have our agenda, but we want to really gear it towards you and what you need to hear. So all four of us are totally open to changing course as we need to make sure you get what you want out of this session, so that you feel that you really are more prepared for the journey you're already started, or you're just starting, or you're trying to augment what you already know. So yeah, just keep us on track. I mean, we love the feedback and we love questions. So don't be shy, just speak up. And yeah, we love hearing about you in the chat as we go on too. Like Jesse and I just introduced ourselves a little bit before we started that we're Americans, but we're living in Albania now. So it's really cool that we have some people here from, around the world and the Americas as well. So it's just a nice group. So thank you all for joining us. We do really appreciate it.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add before I jump into our own intros, Em?
No, I mean, I think if we're going to go on to the agenda, then okay. I'll start with the agenda, and then you can talk a little bit about us, if that sounds good.
Perfect. Yeah, everyone can see the agenda there. I hope the text is readable, is legible to everyone. So if anyone can't see anything well enough, please just put in the chat and we'll try and fix it.
So, of course, we'll start with a little bit more introduction to Howard and Alana in just a minute, to give you their backstories, where they're coming from and where their goals were and their dream schools were and how they achieved their great success. And, we're going to look at all the different sections of the MBA application: your test prep, your school research, your deep analysis. And we'll look at how we're going to apply that to completing your MBA application, your interview practice, and then, of course, navigating the waitlist, which is something we've heard recently from a lot of people isn't talked about a lot up front. So we're looking forward to every step of the way here. The other thing we'll say too is that, the journey is different for everyone. That's so exciting about us for our jobs, is everyone we meet, everyone we go through this process with. Yes, there's some things that you hit all the time, but it's surprising and new and fresh with every person. So, if you have a specific concern, even if you think, oh, maybe no one else thinks this, or they're really concerned about it, speak up. That's what we're here for, because you'd be amazed about how many other people are probably thinking the same thing and like a little bit afraid to raise their hand, so just go for it. We really are here to be as personal of a help as possible. And we can't stress enough that this can be quite a challenging process. And a lot of people go in and put a couple hours a week in their calendar, and then when they're knee deep in it, they're kind of surprised about how intense it is and the energy level it takes. So, we're really excited to hopefully kind of share some of that and what an in-depth learning process it can be, not just about a school, but about yourself, and how it can really overflow from just an MBA application into a greater understanding of your journey and your worldview and your future career and your personal objectives. So yeah, I don't know if maybe Alana, would you like to share a little bit about the difference there was for you between what you expected in the energy and the time consumption of the process versus what you actually faced? Did you have a very clear understanding of what you're getting into? What surprised you along the way? Anything to add?
No. I did not expect really the time that it would take, or like the time that I would need. I started researching schools back in 2023. I knew I wanted to return to school. So over 2 years ago now, it was very just kind of looking to see what programs are out there. And I was just really doing maybe a couple hours a week, just trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to pursue. But then in 2024 was when I knew I was going to be applying in the next application cycle, and it really ramped up. And once I really got into the thick of test prep and application writing, it ended up being almost like a second full-time job. I was putting in close to 6 hours a day, just trying to make sure I had a grasp on everything and all of the different components, to make sure that I was like fully prepared, because I really only had, in my circumstance, like one shot to to like kind of get the acceptance and be successful for this year, I just for personal reasons, I couldn't like if this year didn't turn out as I'd wanted, I didn't have the opportunity to apply next year. So I really wanted to make sure I had everything set, and it ended up taking a lot of time and dedication.
I think the second job and kind of comparison feels real to a lot of people when they get halfway in there and they're like, wow, I didn't sign on for this. Like I already have full-time occupation. So yeah, great. Thank you for sharing, Alana. Howard, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Alana has shared. It's like a second full-time job for me when I apply for it. And I would say the overall application is more difficult than I expected in the beginning. Yeah, because you have to do a lot of things at the same time, and then keep up with the timelines. Yeah, and for me, I also have a timeline because I decided not that early. Yeah, and have to prepare the other thing at the same time. So I would suggest everyone to just, if you have made out your mind, you can just go with your application early, decide everything early, so that you don't have to do everything in a rush. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I'm also just going to say before we move on, I do have another event coming up that is about research. So if you're looking for more information about school research and deep school research, like Alana mentioned, that she started in 2023, really diving into the schools. It's actually 2 weeks from today at the same time. So I'd love to see you there as well. So yeah, maybe Jesse, now you can tell a little bit more about us, and then we'll move on to the heart of the event.
Yes, that sounds terrific. And as I kind of said to the people who arrived early, I'm truly, I think both Em and I are truly excited about this event, as it's the first Leland live event that we've done together, which is really awesome. And I think it's a truly unique opportunity that you don't get very often. This early, especially in the process, if you're applying for round one, especially if you're applying beyond that, such a unique opportunity to really hear the reality of every stage of the process from other people who have actually gone through it. And when we work with our clients, and you'll hear this from Alana and Howard, we really view it as a true partnership. And Em and I work together with every single client, every single full service client that we take on. Usually one of us is the primary and the other is constantly in the background. You're always seeing both of our names on any of the written components of feedback on essays and resumes and all of those kind of things. We are so it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, which I think is really really nice. We have developed a kind of specialization in international applicants, but one of the main reasons we actually joined Leland was to begin working with fellow Americans, which has been great getting to do that over the course of the last year. And of course, continue expanding to work with more and more applicants from various countries. And today, I'm really thrilled that we're getting to feature both Alana and Howard. They were both actually went through literally every part of the process you could imagine, because in the end, they both faced a waitlisting, which they're going to talk much more about later. So there's virtually nothing they haven't experienced that they can't talk to. So why don't I leave it there and pass it over to Em there to go to Alana.
Okay, cool. So yeah, now we're going to hear more about Alana and, where she came from, where she wanted to go, and the brief overview of how she got there, which we'll dig in more as we go along here. So Alana, if you could just give an introduction to yourself and maybe your short and long-term goals, that would be awesome.
Yeah, certainly. So I guess starting out with undergrad, I went to the University of Toledo, which is in Ohio, a small state school, but then ended up moving to Washington, D.C., where I currently work with the U.S. Department of Defense, covering foreign defense policy that I've done for the past 4 years. Looking to transition my career, and that's why I looked to doing an MBA. Short term, I'm looking at doing management consulting. I want to look at how geopolitical insights can drive business decisions. And then I want to take that to my long-term goal, which would be more of a collective, focusing more on how to coordinate public and private sector to look at geopolitical challenges and look at maybe some sustainability efforts in there as well. So my target schools were London Business School, INSEAD, IE, and Imperial. And I ended up being accepted to LBS, IE, and Imperial.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a quick, brief note, why was LBS your top choice? I know that was your dream school. What really stuck out about LBS to you?
Yes. So really looking at just the strength of the program and of their alumni network, and then also the opportunities given in the program. I really was looking for the hands-on approach, which a lot of business schools offer, but for LBS in particular, they offer in their academic terms, opportunities to work with different businesses on consulting projects. And because I knew that's what I wanted in my short term, having that experience during the term would only strengthen and allow me to gain the experience to help with my transition.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, cool. Maybe on to Howard, Jess.
Yeah, right before I ask Howard to do the same as far as an introduction, I just wanted to welcome, I see actually several of our current clients are in the room as well. So I won't call you out by name now, but feel free to introduce yourselves if you like at some point, or say hi to people in the chat. And so Howard, would you go ahead and also introduce yourself and the schools that you were targeted and were admitted to?
Yeah, hello. Sorry, because there's something wrong with my computer. I changed to my cell phone. Can everyone hear me clearly?
I can.
Yeah. Everyone else good?
Okay. So, hello everyone. So I'm Howard, and then I study in the National Taiwan University for my business majors. Yeah, and I took the GMAT focus, the newest editions. Yeah, and then I want to work in the States, so I applied to the school in the States, and I also want to transition to the consulting.
Hey, Howard.
So I started a school who was famous for higher recruitment rates in technology and consulting. So that's the reason why I choose three schools: Martin Sloan, Kellogg, and Talk. Yeah, and in the end, I admitted to the three school. Yeah, and I was waitlist first at Sloan. Yeah, and did get accepted in the end. And you might not.
Yeah. Sorry. We're getting an echo.
How about now?
Oh, worse.
Worse. How about now?
Oh, perfect. All right. Excellent. Thanks. Sorry about that.
And then pre-MBA, I work in the e-commerce company as a strategy and operation associate and in charge of the financial planning analysis, and do some project about the fulfillment, like launching the warehouse. And then I did some sustainability initiatives, like the reusable logistic boxes initiatives. And that's also one of my main focus when I told my MBA story, an interview and essay. And so in the short term, I want to pivot to the impact consulting roles in the consulting firms. So that's the reason why I also highlight my related experience in my essay and interview. And in the long run, I want to become like a head of the strategy in the corporates. Yeah, to driving some projects related to the sustainability. Yeah. And beyond my work, I also volunteered in my free time and participated in the full marathon. Yeah, so that's also the other two aspects I highlight during my application to get myself more stand out from the other people.
Yeah, the full marathon thing is particularly impressive to me. I don't think I could do, I don't know, a few kilometers at this point would be very challenging. So yeah, well done. And a great personal detail to share. So yeah. Moving on to test prep. I don't know, obviously, where everyone in the audience is on their journey. Could I just get some thumbs up for people who are either in test prep or just starting or trying to get the score now? And I don't know if people can put in the chat, like if you're doing GMAT or GRE. I don't know how many TOEFL IELTS people we have out there. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, so lots of people working on this right now. Okay, cool. Let me see. We have 1 second. I'm still new to the system, so I thought and asked to speak, but I don't see it popping to the top, so maybe someone accidentally hit that. If you do want to speak, just try again. So yeah, so good for all of you being into it. It obviously, if you're halfway there, you know it usually sucks a bit more time than you think it's going to. And yeah, it's really important to decide early whether you're doing GMAT or GRE or TOEFL versus IELTS, and to set a really realistic timeline and in a good set schedule. Please keep in mind too, as we go through these slides, that we're doing section by section here because it's the way it makes sense to talk about it. But we've met applicants who, you know, when they come to us, they're like, oh, no, I'm not doing essays yet. I'm doing test prep now. And I mean, that's great that you're that focused and you really want to get those scores because they are very important. But we strongly encourage people to look at multiple parts of the MBA application process at the same time, just like Alana did. And she was back there researching schools, you know, even before it sounds like she started test prep. Sorry, don't forget that. I don't remember that detail. But yeah, I think it's great if you have your top commitment is GMAT, also have a secondary and a third commitment, so that all of our energy levels are different at different times of the day. So you have your GMAT time, but you also might be doing some school research, some deep self-analysis. You know, you might even start networking if you know the schools you're after. So yeah, we really encourage balance in the way we go about it with our candidates, not just trying to tick one box at a time. And yeah, I think just obviously, just like the slide says, you know, use the official practice tests. They're there for a reason. They're what you need. Track your progress. Don't be afraid to get a tutor. You know, some people have been out of school for years. You haven't taken a test in a really long time. You know, go get help as soon as you realize you need it. Don't postpone. But a lot of people are just fine doing it on their own. And be prepared for retakes, because this, a lot of people, they do their practice tests. They get a score that's sufficient for what they feel they can achieve. And then on test day, sometimes you fall a little short. Your nerves are up. It's just a little different circumstance than you're used to. So please allow time for at least one retake, if not more. Yeah, and as always in this process, be prepared for some unknowns, a little bit more stress, a little bit more energy needed in certain parts of the test than others that maybe you weren't ready for. So just keep an open mind and be flexible about your routine and how you're attacking, you know, your challenges and overcoming them. So I think that's it for me right now. Howard, I'd love to hear more about any tips you have and a little bit about your test prep journey, if you can.
Yeah, sure. And like what I've said, I choose GMAT because many people in my circle took it to prepare for their MBA. So I think that's the one I'm familiar with. And then I think for GMAT, I didn't take any Korean school or tutors classes. I studied on my own. So I would say a tight timeline is very study timeline is very important, so that you can always on track and what you have read. So recommended 3 to 6 months for your study. Yeah, I know that it's a suffering process and also a nightmare for many people. So I think go over 6 months will be really bad. Yeah, so I know most people, they finish within 6 months. And then I think the best way to do it at first, just to take a GMAT mock test to note what's your situation, what's your level, and you will know that how much thing you have to prepare. Yeah. And then some material I recommend was many people recommend using official guide, yeah, from GMAT. They have a lot of basic questions and explanation about all kind of the concepts regarding verbal, quant, and data insights. And then if you want to in higher score, then you can choose the advanced official guide. That's also a very good material I use to help me achieve a higher score. And then there's a forum I also recommend. It's called GMAT Club. So they provide free tests during the UAE's national holidays, so that you can test whether you are competent enough or not. Yeah. And then, yeah, I think that's all. Just prepare. And I know that some people, they say you have to say test in advance so that you will know what you want to strive for. So I think that's also a good way. So if you don't book or reserve any test date properly, you will get loose on that. So you don't prepare that well. And then because I'm not familiar with GRE, so maybe Alana can explain more about this.
And great transition. And sorry, I just want to say thank you for those very specific feedback. That's really great. Yeah, I agree with everything there as far as your time commitment and getting on there. Sorry, go ahead, Justin. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just, before we come to Alana and going over to the GRE, there was a great question in the chat asking about there being the school is not really posting the current ranges for the GMAT focus, and wondering, should you basically just look at the kind of online equivalents to the old GMAT? And the answer is yes. You can just, there are plenty of sites you can find the kind of conversion from the GMAT focus to the old style GMAT, which is the ranges that you are seeing published on the school site. So with that, let me pass it over to Alana and the GRE.
Yes. So my test taking journey was a lot more challenging than I expected. So my first advice would just to start start as early as possible, just because you don't want to end up running out of time, especially if you need to study more or take a retake. Personally, I ended up doing a retake even after I submitted my application. So just knowing, without knowing how much time it would take you to reach your target score, just be super proactive with that. Starting out, I didn't know which test I wanted to take. So I ended up taking a mock GRE and GMAT to see which one I felt more comfortable with. And I really liked the GRE and sort of that test taking experience a lot better. So that was the one that I chose to go with. And something that I also found really helpful was just keeping a log of the questions that you get wrong. So you can just see patterns in maybe what different categories you're lacking in. And yeah, that's really all I have to add.
Yeah, the log is a great suggestion, 100%. I think you can learn a lot from that. And does anyone else have questions about test prep specifically? Either raise your hand or unmute your mic or put it in the chat before we move on to the next category of school research. Anything else you'd like to ask Jessie or I or Alana or Howard?
Don't be shy. Maybe this isn't the #1 topic of the event. We'll see.
And we should have some time at the end too, hopefully, for more Q&A. So if you think of something halfway through about test prep you want to add, we can get it at the end.
Absolutely. All right. So then I'll go ahead on to our next topic, which is school research, which is, as many of you may know, if you've been to my past events on school research and networking, this is one of my absolute favorite topics that I feel just doesn't get enough attention in general. So it really gives you the opportunity to differentiate yourself from many applicants that you would be surprised at how many really only go to that surface level of understanding the school and the program. You need to spend a huge amount of time really digging as deep as you can and trying to find all of those connections to what you're trying to accomplish, what you have to contribute, and how that connects to the school that you are, each specific school that you are applying to. I'm not going to put this on every slide, but with this and the networking and many other things, it goes without saying you should take copious and well-organized notes. And with that, why don't I pass it off for the real experience to Howard. Could you walk us through your research process and why you feel it was important?
Yeah, sure. And my process kind of is very simple. I'll have 4 steps. The first one, just create your research doc and then the folders so that you can work with your consultants. And then you get a research template from JC. I also get mine from JC first. So that is a general outline of every school that you're going to collect some basic informations. Yeah. And so first step will be like a third step will be like a general research first. So the clubs or the tuition fee or GMAT score, the median average for that school, those basic things can be found in that template. And through this process, you will know more about this school. And because I think in the very beginnings, you actually don't know much about those schools because most schools, they talk about exactly the same thing. Oh, we are the school competitive in consulting, investment banking, technology, something like that. So if without this research, you don't know the subtle difference between those schools. Yeah. So general research is very important first. And then, so that also helped me a lot in why school. And this is also a very typical questions in the interview and essays that many schools ask these questions because they want to know whether you really like their school. And through this research, you will know more about the school's uniqueness. So 4 steps, I would say, is the last step that you have to deep dive on your topic you like. For example, from the research, I keep talking with JC about my research outcomes, and then at the same time, I also know what I like from this school. For example, I want to focus on the sustainability initiatives. So I find a lot of the sustainability resources from each school. Like for MIT, I know that they have clubs specifically for food, water, agriculture. Yeah, and they are not commonly seen from the other schools. So I know that MIT is really committed to those topics so that they are willing to separate different topics so that they have a different club for that one. Yeah. So yeah, and in the end, you have to have a regular catch up with your JC or M to know more about those research, because sometimes you might lose your directions. You research collect a lot, but sometimes there are all some noise information that doesn't help to build your story. Yeah, so if you want to be more focused, you get someone to consult, and that's very good. So yeah, then that's all about my research. I'm not sure whether Alana have anything to add.
Yeah, I think just adding for like the long-term, I guess, utility of this research that I found was that my research notes for each individual school was something that I continually came back to during my application process, just looking at different details and looking to reference when I was writing my essays or when I was networking. It was something that I was able to pull and say, hey, I haven't seen a lot about this club. Let me see if I can find an alumni that I can specifically target just so I can get more information on. And then also something that I kept in my mind the entire time I'm doing my research is trying to connect really what I want to get from the school, like what experiences and the things I really want to learn, continually connecting that to what I can see that the program offers. And then also looking kind of vice versa and seeing what is something that in my research I can see maybe, I don't want to say lacking, but maybe is missing from the school that I could provide to either my cohort or to certain clubs just to sort of better enrich my experience in the program.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you really emphasized that, Alana. Some of you, I think, were in my recent boot camp session on this topic, and we used this template, and kind of the whole beginning of that is all of the key information about you and your background, your strengths, your weaknesses, your goals, and then taking that, like Alana's saying, and really deep diving into the exact things at that program that will help you, gain this you need to build upon, or this is a great opportunity in this club where you have a lot of things to be able to contribute, and that all becomes very specific in your essays and in the interviews. So just wanted to add that. Anyone want to, I don't see any other questions for this topic in the chat. Before we go on, anyone have anything?
And
Oh,
I just want to.
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
for it, Howard.
One interesting thing is last year I was one of the attended in this session, and that session was hosted by JC and Alana. Explaining their school research template. That was also my first time to know more about JC's applications. And then I know, wow, this template is so good. So I'm gonna try this one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Howard. And anyone in the audience, please message either Jesse or I, and we're happy to send you the template. So please just message us at Leland, and we'll send that right over after the event, of course.
And I see a question here in the chat from Dominique. When would you invest in traveling out of state to visit a school, or I'll say for someone like Howard in Taiwan, out of the country, and Alana going to the UK and Spain, this kind of thing? I would really say as early as you're able. Of course, not everyone can afford to do this. Why don't I can say to that, but Alana, Howard, do you want to add any of your thoughts on that?
I guess I'll speak. I ended up visiting London in November, and I applied in round 2. So I was submitting my application in January. So this was kind of like the best time personally for me to visit. But I think before submitting your application was really helpful for me because then I could just write to my experience visiting campus in my application. And it also helped me talk to current students and sort of get their perspectives. And it just, I think, really strengthened my essays.
Excellent. I see that Shale too. Go on, Howard. Sorry.
Okay, I haven't been to the UAs, so I cannot speak for this one. But I know that I know in Martinsville they opened some session for first, potential applicants to visit the school campus. I also know that in waitlist stage, some people waitlisted visit the campus to show their interest in the school, and I think that also helps for their waitlist to admission. Yeah.
Okay, another great question there. Is there such a thing as getting too specific when talking about what interests you in a school? I see teaching style, but would referencing specific classes be too specific? I'm interested in product management and healthcare, which is what I've been looking for in the school.
If you don't mind, I'll take this one,
yeah,
Jess, since you took the last one.
Please.
So I don't think there's anything, unless you're talking about what kind of desk you want to sit in or what chair is comfortable for you. I think anything other than that, you can't get too specific. I'm definitely talking about specific classes is fantastic, and relating that class to your experience, what you need to get from it, also what you can give to a class. Just because you're taking a class doesn't mean you don't have contributions you can make, because everyone is bringing something to the table. And maybe, you're taking a class that's more into investment banking and that's not your background, but your background can relate in a different way because maybe it's a lot more finance people in that class than you. So keep an open mind about what you can contribute and get from the classes. Definitely mention specific schools, specific professors, learning experiences, labs, like really dig in there and put together, like in your mind, look through your semesters. And this is what I want to do my first 3 months on campus, my first 6 months, my first year. And it really helps you get a very detailed list, and then you can see how you're going to grow as a person during that time. And it's a great way to talk to schools during the essays and during the interviews, because then they know you really did do your research, and they know when you get on that campus, you know what you want to do, you know what you can contribute, and you know what to expect to get from them. So yeah, I don't think you can be too specific. I don't know how the other 3 people here feel in the room, but I think I know how Jesse feels. I have a little bit of a clue for the others as well, but I don't know if anyone else wants to jump on that.
In my applications, I specifically named certain courses and professors that I was interested in. And then, like Em said, what I was hoping to learn from the courses and the professors, but then also what I could provide to classroom discussion and things like that.
And
Yeah,
Howard, you were really
fantastic.
specific on some stuff as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Specific course meant about sustainability and the resources about clubs and action learning labs, something like that.
And I remember, Howard, you even had a very specific idea for one of the clubs that you had learned about, right? And so, you know, Howard really went beyond the kind of just referencing it. Can you give people a little more of an idea about that?
Oh yeah, because when I researched, I think Kala and MIT Sloan, I saw some specific resources regarding some social impact clubs and the programs. I'm not kind of very interested in that. So when I maybe in a later stage I will talk about networking. So I really found those alumni or current students who are the selected in that program and clubs, and then I network with them, reach out to them, talk more about that, and I really know what the structure is about that program in the clubs, and I really write that down in my essays. And when interview stage, I was also asked the same questions, and I can really give my idea about how the club and the program is. And the interviewer, I would say overall, get amazed about how detailed I know about those resources. Yeah.
Well, we got another great question in here that either Alana, Howard, if you want to try this. So when adding in your specific contributions, how did you both manage the thin line between showing and not telling? Kind of big questions, huh?
I will say because you have a lot of time to prepare. Maybe it's during the interview time because you have to say a lot, and all the things are really spontaneous. You don't know what kind of question an interviewer asks you. But before that, I think I have a lot of preparation with bases about what kind of question they might ask. Yeah, so I have my specific stories. I don't want to tell them directly. I wait for them to ask me. So in that way, you will have to discuss a lot with JC or M about how to hide those trap that you want to set for them when you're speaking. Yeah, I think it's a little bit complicated.
Not a trap, but you know.
I like it. I think it's great.
All right.
It's a happy trap.
Putting breadcrumbs, you know. Alana, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I think, sorry, let me pull up. Speaking to the line between showing and not telling, I think just kind of knowing yourself, your story, and your narrative, and how you're presenting yourself or like what you're showing. Specifically to me, working in defense foreign policy, that was something that I showed multiple times in my application in different aspects, and kind of, I mean, I guess in showing, just saying kind of like what that means to me and like my passion for foreign policy and how it can relate to business. So then when I'm speaking to my contributions, it's really natural for me just to say with my passion and my experience in this topic, of course, it's going to be something that I want to contribute. So it's just very natural when it's consistent and genuine, I think, in yourself and in your narrative.
All right, great. And I see one more question, which I'm going to say we're going to get to in just a couple topics there. You were asking or about understand the different schools have different essay topics, but you'd like to know how you were, Alana and Howard were able to present your story in the essays. Don't mind if we forget, remind us again, but we'll come back to that in just a couple topics. We're going to be covering a lot about what you're putting in the actual application itself. We're hitting some of these things as we go, but to make sure we have enough time, let me go on to our next topic, which is networking. And so this goes along with the research side, and you've definitely already heard Alana and Howard reference some of these kind of pieces of the puzzle. But you really, once you have identified in your research the things that are important to you in the program, that will guide your strategy for who you are going to try and contact. So for example, Howard had the specific clubs that he knew he really was hoping to get involved with. So that's an easy starting point, right? You're going to the site, you're finding out who's the current president, or is there a different event that you got really interested in that they're going to do. So target them. And I think I can let Howard and Lana go further instead of kind of giving my spiel of the types of people you're targeting.
If you don't mind, I'll just drop one thing in here before,
Yeah.
because I do want to move along, get Alana and Howard's perspective. But just keep in mind that when you're networking, once you decide on a school, then you're kind of confined to that school. So you have to think in this networking process, you get to touch every school you're interested in, and current students and alumni. And it really gives you the opportunity to build your network, not just for the MBA process, but for your life and your career afterwards. So you really get to engage with a lot of people on a real exciting topic for them. I mean, they usually love their school. They're so excited to be there and they want to share with you. So don't miss that opportunity. Don't stick to just one or two schools and just one or two people. Really push yourself out there. And I can say this from the point of view that networking is not a fun thing for me to do. So I know it can be very hard and it can really be difficult, but you really, really should do it because it goes way beyond just this stage of the application process. It touches so many areas, from essays to interviews to your postgraduate work. It's just very important. So yeah, and just quickly in the slide, like I think both Lana and Howard will mention, just make sure you're very specific about your questions, make sure you're really on point. And this is going to fit in so many different places. And just also too, the thing I have gotten a little bit from our foreign clients is that if they're from Japan, they only talk to Japanese students and Japanese alumni, and the same for many other countries. So really, make sure you're contacting appropriate people, but don't just stay in your box, whether it be your country or whether it be your, line of work. As long as the person is right to answer the specific questions you have, don't be afraid to reach out, because that really shows too to the school that when you're there on the ground, you will do that as well. You won't just be stuck in your hole where you've been. You won't pigeonhole yourself. You'll go out and help other people and be involved and support others. So that took longer than I wanted. Sorry. Please let's hear from the candidates that actually just went through that. So yeah, what can you share about this networking? What happened for you in your networking journey, Howard?
Yeah, networking is actually a very important process during the application, and also the most enjoyable process, I would say. Yeah, and for me, I think technically I want to share something like my steps so that people to reference. So for me, I'm the Google Sheet lover, so I always create Google Sheet first to check everything. Yeah, I think you can also get a template from the JC. Yeah, because I got one from him, and then that time I collect around like 20 candidates from the LinkedIn, and like what Em has said, you have to know what you want to network with. So you will focus on specific student from that schools, and you have to go beyond the nationality. I think that's always what JC and Em have told me to do. Yeah, so don't just network with the people from your culture. You can even network with the other people because they might have different perspectives. Yeah. And then so I target around like 20 candidates from the LinkedIn. Oh, that's the best time to subscribe to LinkedIn Premium because you can see more detail and send more private message to those people. And then I target like current student, alumni graduating within 3 years, and alumni graduating above 10 years, because different alumni in different stage, they have different reflections on their MBA journey. I think it's a good way to let you know more about this school. Yeah. And beyond what the school has described it in their official website, when you reach out with those alumni or current student, they can really give you a vibe from that school and will know more about the difference. Yeah, not just from those external or secondhand source of information. They give you really the first hand. But before that, you have to really prepare well in advance so that you won't ask some silly questions, waste their time. If you ask some questions to the point, like you are interested in sustainability, and you reach out to those social impact clubs students, and you ask specific questions about the club, the program, mostly have participated because they all share the same interests. and you ask that, they will feel really not kind of amazed, oh, that you have done your homework. They're willing to share with you more about this program. And you can really find out something that is not written in the school websites. And that's also very important part that you can include in your essay or interview, so that no one know about this important, but only the people who have participated will know about. And then, yeah, and target to have at least, I would say 5 to 10 people, because you have to have enough number of people to network with, so that you will have a sense of what that school is. So I would say, yeah, one more thing is like, this is also a very important stage for me, because I also make some new friends and even mentor from specific schools. Yeah, and they are willing to hear my update, and they give me their personal suggestion when I work through my application, even my career in the later stage. And that's really helpful, I would say. And something I don't expect in the beginning for my networking. Yeah. And not sure whether Alana have anything to add.
Yeah.
All right, we'll pass it over to Alana then.
I
Thanks,
think-
Howard. That's great.
Yeah, Howard mentioned a lot of great points of finding like common interests and starting kind of with, just like current clubs that you're interested in. But then also something that I found really useful was that after attending a lot online events, the students that spoke there, just following up afterwards with like a quick LinkedIn message or an email, thanking them for their time, and then asking any more specific questions maybe that weren't answered during the event. And I found a lot of success with that, especially kind of towards the end when I was waitlisted. I was able to have a really nice conversation with an alumni who was able to kind of help me navigate the waitlist a little bit, and also looking when you're speaking with current students or alumni, and like after the conversation, asking if they have any recommendations for those for anyone else that you could speak with, or that would have time kind of to talk about maybe a question or a topic they couldn't really get too specific into. I think just kind of having sort of like a warm introduction helps a little bit with making the connections and networking sometimes when maybe a cold email or message won't get a response. So just, yeah, being persistent, but then also just really genuine in your connections. And yeah, grateful for the time that they can offer.
Yeah, I think that's great about the follow-up, Alana, that they really appreciate it, because I think a lot of people often don't want to bother them. So it's a little bit like self-censoring. And then also they're like, okay, they answered my one question, I'll ask someone else. So I think you're right, building that relationship, and it really worked for you, like you said, in the waitlisting. So yeah, very, very good advice. I don't know if there are any more questions from attendees, or should we move on to the next section? Okay.
All right, I think
I just asked, I thought I just asked Shale to speak, but it disappeared.
Hello.
Sure, go for it if you want.
Yes, so just my question is, like, you always emphasize on reaching out to more than 5 alums or the current student, right? So you have the in-depth knowledge, but what could be the effective tips for managing networking for multiple schools, say 8 to 10?
Well, I like Howard's reference to GTracker or Excel or whatever you find to be the most useful for your personality. But yes, you absolutely need something like that. So, like, Howard, do you want to kind of share how you organized? You were only 3 schools compared to, let's say, 8, but you want to give just kind of quick overview of how you did that?
Sorry, the question is like compare the 3 schools in.
No, I think Shale was asking, if I understand you correctly, when you're trying to research or network with so many schools, how are you organized the networking, like who you've reached out to, who you've spoken with, how do you keep that all organized?
Oh
And
yeah,
also
so
manage, like, so many schools.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
he's talking like 8, but I think the principles are the same, Howard, right?
yeah. Principle are the same. Just create for me. Just create a Google sheet, and you just add a column. You know that this is the like school's name. You know, to know that different candidates from different school you want to network with, and then their names and their pre-MBA journey and their post-MBA. Sometimes you'll find some people they really share the same journey as you. Like they work in like e-commerce first, and then from Asian country, and then they study in the US for this programs, and they do some internship in consulting tech, and I would know, oh, this is really similar to what I want to do. So I would just note this down to the note saying that, oh, this is candidate shared something similar to me, so maybe I can add this kind of question during the interview, how he or she overcome this process, you know. So yeah, basically, and you might add a column like status. At first, I have three I have three columns for first reach out. It's like you whether I message them on the LinkedIn, and second column is like whether they have replied and whether I have successfully set up a coffee chat with them. And third stage is like whether they have replied me, something like that. So you might have different stage, and then you just add this one to your Google Sheet tracker. So you will know that, oh, this candidate have gone through what kind of process when you're networking with them. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And so why don't I jump on to our next topic? I love all of the questions, and I'll try and move us forward a little bit. So this actually, I think, really plays into a question that Aura was asking earlier in the chat of basically, you know, what makes a great application? And I was just saying in the chat, wow, that's just like, that's an all-encompassing question. But I think the deep self-analysis, the real personal reflection is at the heart of that. You know, if you don't understand who you are, you know, exactly where you come from, both personally and professionally, and what your goals are, and then how and why an MBA is necessary, right? That's at the core of it. And then you're then trying to build a powerful narrative that communicates all of that. So in the essays, in the short answers, in the interviews, once you've done all of this work, sometimes months of work, depending on how much time you have in this case, you're really trying to figure yourself out as deeply as you can and find your where are the threads, where are the stories, where are the themes that come through your life that will powerfully support what your goals are and why you know, that's going to match with this school being the absolute best to help you achieve those, and for you to be the best you know, member of their community. So with that, Howard, let me start with you. How did you do the self-reflection process, and how did it guide your application?
Okay. Yeah. For the process, I think it's also quite kind of simple. I think in the very beginning, JZLN will ask you to build out the life story collection. That's a place that you start to remembering what you have done in the past, something like that. And I always start with the very general stories, and then after discussing with the JZ, and then it told me to refine to something very, very highly relevant. Yeah, something that I know, oh, this is the topic related to the story direction I want, like sustainability or social impact, and I'll just focusing on this aspect. Yeah, and I would say this process is also the one that is not just directly related to the MBA. It's beyond that, because when you do this one, it's kind of the procedure for you to reflect on your life. Sometimes you will know that maybe you don't need an MBA for now because you have done a lot and you want to pivot in another way. You don't really need an MBA to help you to do that. So I will say deep self-analysis is very important to know who you are and what you want to achieve in the future. So not just for the MBA. So sometimes I know that some people, they have gone through this process and then know that, okay, I don't need one, but I know what I want to do. Yeah. So this process is very important, not just for MBA. It's even for your life. And then it's through this process, so I know that I want to focus on specific things like sustainability and then empathetic leadership. That's something that the approach I like when I collaborate and manage the teams. Yeah. And also something I didn't expect in the beginning is that originally I expect that I should only write something relevant within 5 years in my life. So maybe it's after my work, because I worked for about like 4 years. And then JC told me that no, I should write more, not just for my recent 5 years. You should write, date back to very long, tell when you were born, who influenced you a lot. And that's very important because through this process, you connect from when you were born, tell where you are now, and then what factor influence your thinking, your perception, your values. Yeah, and for MIT students ask this question, there's one question about who influenced you a lot. And then it's because I reflect on my life doing those life story collection, and I know that, okay, my mom influenced me a lot. So I want to outline this in my essay to tell the admission committee that my mom influenced a lot in a lot of aspects that make me today. So that's very important. Yeah. And yeah, so that's about my self-analysis. I can pass to Alana for more information.
If I can just jump on that just for 1 second with what Howard was just saying about going back to childhood, and you ended up choosing to talk a lot about your mom at the beginning of that essay. The other reason that made sense for Howard was because it was we realized that she was really the source of his passion to be an empathetic leader, and his passion for sustainability actually went all the way back to childhood. And we then found it actually was there throughout all of the stages of your life, Howard, right? And it's not always going to make sense to go all the way that far back. I don't want people to kind of think, oh, I always have to do that. You only need to do that if it makes sense. And in this case, it really did. It became really, really powerful. So just wanted to add that before on to Alana.
Yeah, so with my deep self-analysis, this was something that I struggled with. I'm just, at first, just wasn't comfortable talking, I guess, that deeply. It was okay for me to write it down, but to actually speak to it, that was something I struggled with. But just with working with Jesse and Em, they were able to help me get more comfortable and really pull it out in my interview prep and in my essays, which I think made me just such a stronger candidate because I was able to be real and genuine and be maybe even like a little bit vulnerable just in how I was expressing myself, which just I think made me it's just they could kind of see my character, I think, a lot more in my application and while I was interviewing, which I think, yeah, just going deeper beyond just my work experience and just kind of maybe the surface level of really what I can bring and contribute. And I think, yeah, just going just working with Jesse and Em just to find out and just to really clarify more of these like deeper themes and topics and threads throughout my life. It was something that I hadn't done before, but able to really like reflect and be introspective. I think it even helps kind of now and in the future, just knowing maybe a little bit more about and being a lot clearer in my thinking of what I value and things like that. So just even beyond the MBA application, it was really nice to do.
Yeah, thanks. That's Oh, sorry, Jess, didn't mean to talk over you. But yeah, I think it's very interesting from our side of it too. It's fun working with people and seeing that personal side. And like you're saying, being a little bit vulnerable, it's hard sometimes. But when you're able to do that, I think it shows a side to the school a lot of people aren't showing, because it can be tough for many people. So thanks for sharing that, Alana. As we go on to the completing your MBA application section, we're just going to go through here. Jesse and I will take turns and then ask at the end for Alana and Howard to add whatever we missed. My biggest thing for staying organized with timelines and checklists, Howard and I are a lot of like about this, is like we have our Excel spreadsheets and our trackers, and it's like I live and die by my calendar and my pop-up notifications. I think a good short point is if you procrastinate more than twice on any given MBA item, then you need to relook at your calendar, reassess, and reorganize. And don't be afraid to do that, because I think a lot of people keep procrastinating. Oh, I'll do it next weekend, next weekend, next weekend. And there's never any next weekend because things pop up, big projects, family needing help. So just don't keep procrastinating. And change your system if you need to, just be open-minded to stay on track. So I don't know, Jess, if you want to talk about the resume.
Absolutely. First thing I'll say is keep it to one page. Most schools do specifically require a one-page resume. A small number will say they prefer one page, but are open to, longer or 2 pages. And I do not recommend going beyond one page. Just keep that in mind. As far as constructing the MBA resume, you really want every bullet to focus heavily on your impact, on your leadership, on your growth, not just what you did, but really the results that you drove. Use strong action verbs, quantify outcomes. I can't say that enough. Keep coming back, revising, going, is it clear the greatest outcome that I can explain in each bullet point? And drama. This is not something I think you would typically think about in a job focused resume, but when appropriate, were there roadblocks you had to overcome? Did you have really tough problems that you were able to solve? Did you lead through some incredible challenge that shows the kind of leadership the kind of leader you are, and really can demonstrate this to the school? So really dig into all of those kind of things. And let me pass it for short answers to you, Em.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit short answers and essays together here then. And so I think for me and for most of us, it makes sense. A lot of people, it's fun to answer some of these essay questions for people who like to write and like, why an MBA? Why now? I've been thinking about this, and they dive in, they write their essay, and they haven't really analyzed and looked at what part of their accomplishments, what part of their life story fit best in all the parts of the application. What's best for a short answer? What's best for 1, 2, or 3 essays? So you have to look at that. And for me, if you have a very good, very thorough outline, it sets you up for the whole process really well. You really have to analyze where the strongest stories need to be and where the most maybe challenging stories. Maybe you are going to include a weakness in it, but that might be better in a short answer than in a longer essay. So really analyze that, in my opinion, before you start writing everything. Really look at that balance of, are you showing your whole true self through every aspect of this application? Don't just focus on getting the best why now MBA essay and then not really giving the same attention of detail to every single thing you write in that application. And yeah, I think just like Jesse said, as far as the resume, you really have to show, don't just tell. So it's great to add the drama, but then at the end, we need some quantifiable results. So what did you do? What happened? And it's also great to look at some long-term outcomes. How has this affected who you are today? Maybe this was a project 2 years ago. How might this affect how you're going to operate at the school? What did you learn from the experience? So quantifiable results are important, but then also what you learn from them. So that would be kind of my short take on essays and short answers. And LOR is from Jess.
Yeah, I'm going to let Howard and Lana talk a lot about this, I think. But, I'll just highlight that, overall the recommendations should, really give real examples from those who know you the best and can write detailed stories, anecdotes that are demonstrating the moments that you have shown the most incredible leadership, influence, growth, being really, really specific. And one other point that I will hit is it's very common for them to ask you to draft it, and then just hand it to them for them to, submit. So instead of that, I'm sure both will talk about the kind of prep documents that you prepared, and using all of that to really remind them of your key achievements, explain your goals, what themes are going to be in your applications, and meeting with them to discuss this. So it's actually encouraged to work with them, right? To help remind them, refresh them, have deep conversations